Oh, the canoe is sitting on your shoulder right now. I'd like to get in the water and make some use of it, you know. Get the hang of poling the dugout. And kind of, I gotta remember when I was a young kid, there used to be two guys pulling the dugout there, and we'd go across the river, and all of us family would sit in the middle, and the two guys would pole, and that was summer, spring, right to the fall, right to the ice floe. When the ice is, they know when it's going to freeze up, so they make, they pole across the river when the ice is flowing down the river. And then next morning, then they pull all their dugouts out, and next morning the ice is froze. But we're not going to do that here. But,
it's a unique university where certain courses are not offered anywhere else in that sense. So other people are beginning to notice that, so I really applaud the university for taking a new direction as just like School District 57, working on that curriculum, and it's new days, new times, new era, and we're making history as we go along, and I keep reminding all the students that we're doing that.
The band called me, and the city called me and wanted to engage in creating an art project for the city center Spirit Gate project. And so I spent some time thinking about what to do that would be representative of local culture and history, because they wanted to acknowledge the traditional territory and the history of Prince George. So at the same time, Robert Frederick was working on a canoe for Hubble Homestead, and it occurred to me that the canoe is very significant, as well as the waterways, and that being the only sense of transportation. The salmon have always been really important, so I wanted to incorporate the salmon somehow. So I got Robert together with me in the city and the band manager, who at the time we talked about ideas and a collaboration with Robert to make the canoe and do the mosaic tile. The canoe, we tried finding a story. We looked over several stories that would relate to the canoe, and we came up with the story of a Stas and the salmon.
Like the way they do it a long time ago, they put rocks in there and the heat bend the bottom of the boat, and they used all the outer side, because the outer side is the hardest part of the wood. Then when you carve it out, like these ones here, they've been carved, we carved out the bottom to that shape. But if we were to do it like the really old style way, then we'd have to use the whole outer side of the wood and then make it thin so the rocks could weigh it down, shape the bottom with the rocks and hot water. And then after it cools it down, then the bottom will be shaped like that. And the elders from Takla Lake, they come to me and they told me how they did it. That's how he remembers when he was a young kid and he watched them build it. And he said, that's how they did the bottom. They used the rocks. And then, you see, my project here, I did. These dugouts, they're carved the bottom. But we used the water to open it up. And the Takla Lakers, they say they make their dugouts like 20 footers and more. And like that. These ones here, 16 footers, them, they were just kind of like taxis on the rivers. Then they, like, long time ago, they even built like dugouts for the shipping a priest around, You know, he'd have a special dugout. Like that's over 100 years ago, when the priest first come around. He'd have his own special dugout made. Like I was reading in history, history of Father Maurice, and he was talking about that he was traveling up a river and it started to rain really hard, and then the Indians that were guiding them, they started to sing a song, they used the side of the dugout as a drum beat, and they'd sing, and he wrote down the song they sang there. It was Mali, Mali, Mali.
Yeah, this summer was quite a memorable summer.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was. With all the UNBC students here, and it was oral history put into action. That's what it was. And they were determined. I remember that last day, Robert, was so sad.
No way, when they put that dugout in, I was just about crying.
Before that, though, he figured it wasn't it wasn't done, it didn't widen, but the determination of our students, they urged him on, and they got him to widen it and put the braces in, and they launched it. That was really neat, and that was quite the experience teaching those university students. It's it's so much publicity came out of it, and now our young people, they want to learn. They want to learn what their ancestors used to do.
Well, anyways, they used to bring the dugouts across there on the Giscombe Portage. They used to haul it across there. Like I read in history books, like they try to make it like so impossible that they couldn't drag their 40-foot dugouts up that pass and down the other side. Like you could. You could. They could. They were clever. They were. They know how to do things. They would have probably did it in a really simple way that for us, it's really, like a task to get and once you get on the other side into that crooked river, them Sicanis up there and them Tseke, they sure know how to be a riverman, even with their long 24-foot river boats, they go in them creeks like that, and they're so good that they could put a cat on their river boat and they could maneuver them shallow little creeks like that. They snake their way back to Findlay Forks or Ingenika, And that's, that's using the river boats. And, there's pictures of Sicanis using dugouts in their rivers. 60 years ago would be about the last time they used dugouts out in North Shelley. That would have been in the early 50s, about 1953, 54. And after that, they came out with boats with the motor on it. And that's just got better. The boats and the motors just got better through the years. And the dugout never ever came back. And the last one I remember to make the dugouts was Edie's grandpa, Patrick John, and his son-in-law Alec Paul, and his sons Sonny John and Peter John. And that was about 58, 1950, no, 58, 53 was the last time we had dugout, 54. About 56, 57. That's when. And then the Seymour said, old Frank, he made a dugout, But you know what? I couldn't remember that dugout he made, but I could remember the dugout that the Johns made across the river. Yeah. If we do another dugout, I'd like it to be a 30-footer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really, like the old style way.
It was an amazing experience. I was very honored to be a part of it, and I want to thank everyone that thought of me to come along and do the canoe course. And once again, thank you to Jen and Antonia and Robert and Edie for letting me be a part of it, and letting me paddle the dugout canoe. I mean, that was an amazing honor, and it was an amazing day. The weather was perfect. The students were absolutely amazing. The ones that took the canoe course were right on the money. And yeah, no, it was a great day.
Okay, you'll have to wait. Dancing. At first they're dancing in their using for air holes, right? Yeah. And then they get their net, and then they're pulling it up, and then they're throwing it over their shoulder and going home.
Oh, so they sing.
That one?
Okay, now
And
so there's no word for thank you, but there's a word for which is there's like a weird like word. What is it?
what's that?
You guys forgot the most I know.
they used to be in, you know what? You know it's a really strange thing? Henry Dick, he used to make dugouts, and he was a blind man. Him and his wife, Juliet, they used to make dugout, and, you know, this is what I heard, and, you know, like Henry, he's blind, and he could make these dugouts. You know, he feel, I guess, you know. So, and he, you know, well, he couldn't pick the tree, but he could build dugout. And George J, he was the dugout maker, you know, the Jails, Seymours, Fredericks, Johns, Quas, August used to make dugout too, August and Ellie. Yeah, just about every member in Northside Shelley made dugouts. And they had dugouts until the outboard motor came in.
Carving as well as local history through the elders instead of through books and in a classroom, so it was a bit of an experience for the students to sit there and experience traditional storytelling and hand carving, learning about the history. There were some readings involved, and so the course went through that progress. I brought in the art aspect by getting them to do journals throughout the process, and we gave them each their own little chunk of cottonwood to carve their mini cottonwood canoes. That itself was an entire learning experience for everyone because most of the students had never carved. There were a lot of students that were First Nations studies students, as well as some visual arts students that were left over from the Emily Carr program that needed to get credits to finish their degrees, so they took the course. And so there was a whole diverse group of students, from art students to, you know, all sorts of other students that take the First Nation Studies courses that they're required to do. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We made a mess. We had to clean up every day, but there were some accidents with knives. But, you know, no matter how many times you tell somebody, until they experience the results, they might not learn it until then. And even after that, sometimes people still have their accidents. It takes more than once for some people. But I think the students really enjoyed the course because it was one of the courses, of the very few courses that they could take where they weren't just sitting in a classroom listening to a teacher or an instructor telling them blah, 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 taking notes, writing papers. And it was more interactive, and a lot of them found it to be the first time that they actually got to socialize with their classmates at a level where they got to know each other and learn about, you know, different cultures and share their cultures as well, because that was a huge part of that course, is, you know, comparing their own cultures to the First Nations local culture and to Canadian culture. Yeah, so that was the first course, and the canoe got finished eventually near the end. And the journals all reflected their own learning journeys, visual journeys, their self-exploration, and what they got out of that first course. So the first course was pretty exciting.